here on January 27, 2026. And if everybody will, as we find our seats, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We'll begin with our invocation and our moment of silence. So we'll take a moment to reflect on things, and we'll do that now. Okay, thank you. And if you're able to rise, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and Randy, if you'll do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez,
Present.
Commissioner Chaparro, Vice Chair Gameros,
Present.
Chair Sanchez.
Present. We do have quorum. So the commission convenes as the Board of County Commissioners and the County Board of Finance in open session. Mr. Andrews, are there any changes to the agenda?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, everyone. No changes to the agenda today.
All righty. All right, then we'll move on to our consent agenda. These are items 1 through 7. Are there any? Oh,
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda.
all right, I have a motion to approve the consent agenda by Commissioner Saldro Hernandez.
I second it.
I have a second by Vice Chair Gameros. Are there any comments, questions, input? All right. Brandy, will you do a roll call on the consent agenda, please?
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez.
Yes.
Vice Chair Gameros,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes. Those items are approved.
Consent agenda does have 2 resolutions. Item number 3, 2026-16, and item number 4, 2026-17.
Thank you, Brandy. Appreciate it. All right, move on to employee recognition. I'll turn it over to Assistant County Manager, Ms. Deborah Weir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We have several employee recognitions today, starting with Mr. Eric Rodriguez from the Treasurer's Office with 10 years of service. He has served as our treasurer and now is our Deputy Chief Treasurer. We have Regina Cogdill from the Sheriff's Department with 15 years of service. Sergeant Jamar Cotton, also from DASO, with 15 years of service. Sergeant Mario Macias from the Detention Center with 15 years of service. And Sergeant Alfonso Cortez from the Detention Center, also 15 years of service. Captain Matthew Cordova from the Detention Center with 15 years of service. And finally, Deputy Walter Yobari from the Sheriff's Department with 25 years of service. So if you see these employees, please take a moment to thank them for their service and express your appreciation for all they do for our community. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Weir. And thank you to the employees for their years of service to the residents of Doña County. All right. And then we'll move on to proclamations. Agenda item number 8, which is to proclaim January 9th, 2026 as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Doña County. And if, yeah, sorry about that. I know, welcome Commissioner Chaparro. Thanks, and we'll give you a second here to get collected before we get started.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. January 9th is recognized as Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And we didn't want to miss the opportunity to publicly acknowledge and express our gratitude to the Doña County Sheriff's Office and to all law enforcement professionals serving in our municipalities and partner agencies across the state. In Doña County, when many of us are able to take time off and spend holidays with our family or rest on an off day, our deputies Our law enforcement officers remain on duty. Their commitment ensures that our residents can live, work, and gather safely, knowing that that help is always available when it is needed. Under the leadership of Sheriff Kim Stewart, the Doña County Sheriff's Office continues to serve with professionalism and a strong commitment to community, safety, and trust. The benefits of their service are felt every day through safer neighborhoods, rapid response in times of need, and the reassurance that someone is always standing watch on behalf of our community. We also recognize that this service extends beyond the officers themselves. Their families share in these sacrifices, supporting long hours, missed milestones, and the emotional demands that come with their profession. Their strength and understanding make this work possible. And today we express sincere appreciation to all law enforcement professionals for continuing to answer the call to keep our communities safe. And on a personal note, I've worked with a lot of these deputies throughout the years, and even the newer deputies that are coming on. Congratulations to all of you. It is my true honor to work alongside you, to see you in court, to see your professionalism, and see you work out in our community. And from the bottom of my heart, deputies, Sheriff Stewart, thank you very much for keeping our community safe. And would you please read the proclamation? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chapato. Whereas law enforcement officers serve as guardians of public safety, dedicating their lives to protecting the residents, visitors, and communities they serve. And whereas these officers perform their duties with courage, integrity, professionalism, and an unwavering commitment to justice, often placing themselves in harm's way to safeguard others. And whereas law enforcement professionals work tirelessly to prevent crime, respond to emergencies, enforce laws, and build trust through community engagement and service. And whereas the work of law enforcement extends beyond enforcement to include compassion, crisis intervention, mentorship, and collaboration with community partners. And whereas it is fitting and proper to recognize and honor the sacrifices made by law enforcement officers and their families who share in the challenges and risks of public safety. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed Law Enforcement Appreciation Day in Doña County, and calls upon all residents to join in recognizing, honoring, and thanking our law enforcement officers for their dedicated service and continued commitment to the safety and well-being of our community, proudly proclaimed on the 9th day of January, 2026.
Thank you. We got a snuggle.
She always makes it snuggle.
It is cold.
I'm not trying to take your gun.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, then I'll move on to the public input section of our meeting. If there are many members of the public, we'd like to invite you to come on up and provide your public input. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak. If you are here for a specific agenda item, we do ask that you wait until the agenda item is up for discussion. But if you do come and join us, please, just a couple of notes. One, make sure to sign the book on the left, the table on the left of you. And the second is that as you come up to speak, please understand that as public input, you are speaking to the chairman, not individually at one of the other commissioners. So, but just as we do that, I'd like to invite any members of the public to come up and speak, please. Good morning. And if you can, state your name for the record for us.
Sorry.
If you can state your name for the record.
Okay. Hello, my name is Abigail Saluksagan, and I have been living in Doña for over 17 years now. I'm a counseling student as well as a farmer, hoping to integrate the knowledge I obtain at the farm into my profession, teach the community how to garden and how to utilize their space and resources to feed themselves, because we cannot rely on our government with even basic necessities. This board, except for Commissioner Chaparro, decided to prioritize profit over people by selling our water that will be used by a greedy and harmful AI data center to feed our water to an entity for a computer disguised by economic benefit. To who? To you? To OpenAI? Did you know that the Department of Defense awarded a $200 million contract to OpenAI last year so that they can supply them with tools used in warfare? Did you know OpenAI removed prohibitions on military and warfare from their policy a year before signing this contract with DoD? These backdoor changes continue to open doors to increased militarization and fascism that is terrorizing and killing our people. The way backdoor conversations and agreements of Project Jupiter happened before September 19th, before the first vote at the end of August. It was laid out to Project Jupiter during the 2025 regular session, siding with folks involved with House Bill 93. It was all a design with your complicity to assure Project Jupiter was a go. With a place like New Mexico with electeds to make sure we have safe access to water and to the natural world, Doña Board of County Commission continues to give the community reasons to not trust this board. Even before the Project Jupiter vote, since way back with CRUA, since the findings of arsenic in Sun Park's water. We need significant changes in this board, and that starts now, and it will happen this year. Angelica Rubio summed up my feelings towards this project just last week on her statement in regards to detention centers. She said, "I take real offense, having grown up in a small town, to the idea that the best we can offer rural New Mexico is incarceration for profit, that somehow the only economic development plan available is a prison contract, or a detention contract, or the next extractive project. Do better, commissioners. We live in a healthcare provider shortage area that is in dire need for more mental health providers. The lack of providers results in limited internship opportunities for students like me. And you rely on this extractive project for economic development? That's pathetic. The water belongs to the people. It always has, not for AI data centers. Your community demands that you meet with the public and have these conversations since you've been ignoring us, our emails, and our efforts to stop Project Jupiter. Thank you for keeping that chair warm, Commissioner Shaljo, for the next county commissioner who actually cares about this community. Thank you."
Ma'am, and if you will also please make sure to sign the book. Thank you. Please go ahead and come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Patricia Lawn. I'm here to read a letter from Annie Ersinghouse to Doña County Commissioners about false promises. We have no reason to trust our county commissioners. Let's do a recap. 3 weeks is how long the community had to learn all they could about Project Jupiter before the September 19th, 2025 vote. Negotiations had been in the works with Doña County since November 2024. 3 weeks during which we are given no numbers on pollution or environmental damages. What would be the water usage, electricity generation, noise and air pollution? We received no answers. You demanded no strong enforceable commitments from this industry in exchange for a $228 million annual tax break. Only one of you, Susana Chaparro, did the right thing. The rest of you must admit that you robbed the public of meaningful participation in this decision that would alter their community for decades to come. And we are still in the dark. Why do reports now only reflect this limits on potable water as opposed to water generally? Why are we expected to ignore shifting goals and promises while we have no idea truly how many permanent jobs will go to our community? Why were simple email accessible documents for Project Jupiter deemed overly burdensome for IPRA? Tell us also why there were no construction permits listed at the site and nothing more than Project Jupiter's website provided as response from representatives. You have a moral obligation as a county commission to do better. Let's look at it. There is no reason to trust industry giants with an expensive track record of environmental health consequences and false economic promises. Let's look at examples. Investigators have found that Colossus supercomputer facility in Memphis remains far behind in its hiring claims and is not on track to achieve its stated job targets in the foreseeable future. More than half of the known XAI employees in Memphis were hired from outside the region. Data centers can employ more than 1,000 people during construction, but rarely need more than 100 to 200 employees once they are operational. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimates that a typical large data center requires 1,688 local workers during its initial 18 to 24-month construction phase, but just 157 workers to maintain annual operations. Microsoft estimates that it hires about 50 full-time employees and vendors when a data center building becomes operational. A December 2024 report by the Virginia General Assembly's Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission found that a typical 250,000 square foot data center may have approximately 50 full-time workers. Even OpenAI's 1 million square foot Stargate AI data center in Abilene, Texas will need just 100 permanent workers once completed, according to Abilene's Economic Development Agency. So who's lying to who here? Is it the industry lying to you, or are you just plain ignorant? When Doña Ana's frontline communities face what others have, we know what will happen. My last question is, what did they give you to look the other way? How much did it cost to buy our county commissioners? How much did it cost to sacrifice our futures, your children's futures, and how cheap are we to you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. For the record, I'm Peter Goodman. These are perilous times. In Minnesota and right here, constitutional rights, law, and transparency are under attack. I don't equate the two. You folks won't kill anyone. Likely won't. But you are letting county management deprive someone of a constitutional right without due process. I'm exercising such a right. If I misbehave, you can take appropriate action, but you can't take away a constitutional right or my freedom without due process. Due process means at least a fair and impartial hearing and an avenue to appeal. A fellow came here last week to speak. He wasn't disrupting the meeting. He got thrown in jail without due process. Your staff had decided he'd previously misbehaved, may or may not be accurate, and sent him a trespass letter, denying him any hearing or appeal. Just said, take us to court, much like the cop in Irizarry versus Yehia. That's in Lakewood, Colorado, where a pain-in-the-ass YouTube journalist, like some folks here, videotaped a cop stopping someone. Cops got in his way, shined a light in his camera. 10th Circuit held, first, that he was exercising a well-established constitutional right. Secondly, that it was sufficiently well-established that the cop had no qualified immunity. I hope your interim attorney has fully advised you, has heard of the 10th Circuit, and has fully advised you why your conduct differs from that cop's, even though you had more time to reflect than the cop did, because we'll pay the damages if you let these folks screw up. As a lawyer, I saw similar ignorance and arrogance when I was a lawyer regarding IPRA. When I explained the law to public attorneys, county and city, and said, here, let's settle, just follow the law, and they told me to pound sand. And a while later, a court told them to pay my client a bunch of money, pay a bunch of penalties. One county official here committed a battery. Your folks are responding very much like Trump's people by basically circling the wagons. I hope you will read carefully the thing I gave you on due process, and I'll send one to the other commissioners, and give it some thought. Your lawyers might be right. They might be wrong, but they're not gods, as far as I know. They may well be. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Goodman, don't forget to sign the book, please. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
And you can adjust the, yeah, there you go.
Good morning. My name is America Terrazas, Commission Chair, Mr. Sanchez, and members of the board. I'm here today for concerns of my community. On September 26, 2024, case number Z24016 was presented here in the county for lots number 16 and 18 in Doña Ana County del Cerro to build a clinic. Up to now, I have been calling to see what's happening with our clinic, and the answer is that the county has not fixed the drain problem. I here have pictures of a danger road that's waiting to take a life of any one of you or anyone from my community because of the lack of working on those roads. I have project number 38896 on the ICIP project. $1,400,000 were awarded to work on those issues. So now we are here on 26, and nothing has been done. Not the clinic, not the drainage improvements from the storms. So I am here telling you, asking you to act, work, deliver on the necessities of my community. I'm not asking you to sign blank documents like you did.
Thank you, ma'am. I was going to ask, are you able to give this to our assistant county manager? That way we can take a look into it. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning, please.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nisha Mechanowitz. I guess I've never really introduced myself to you all before. I am a restoration ecologist. I received my degree from New Mexico State in 2013. And my expertise is the Chihuahuan Desert and this ecological landscape that we have down here. This was published in December of 2025. The paper is called Overconsumption Gravely Threatens Water Security in the Binational Rio Grande Bravo Basin. I'm just going to bring out a few points on this paper because I think that it's pertinent to the decisions that you've made surrounding Project Jupiter. I want you to know that according to these estimates, and the authors of these papers fully admit that their goodness fit models are not as strong. The estimates are really hard to calculate for aquifer supply, but our water goes down into the Delta, and they're estimating that the Rio Grande is at 15% capacity at the Delta. Beyond that, their reservoir storage capacity estimates are at 13%. We are at 13% reservoir water capacity for this river, all the way from Colorado down into the Delta. Most of this water is consumed by agriculture. That's what this community thrives on. So all of the water that you're sending and permitting Project Jupiter have, you're taking from the pecan orchards, you're taking from the farmers down here. And I think once they become more aware of how much of their water is going to be at risk, I hope they start hearing, you guys start hearing from them as well. New Mexico has lost in the southern basin, in the lower Rio Grande basin, so they divided up into different sections. We are at 71% capacity. And the estimated groundwater depletion is 7 times more than that, is 7 times worse than that 71% loss. I know I'm throwing a lot of numbers at you, and it's probably too much for your little brains to understand, but I need you to understand that we don't have any more water to give, and you all sold it off. You all sold off our futures and the remaining of this. I also want to let you all, because you don't seem to be paying attention to what all of the scientists in the world are saying about data AI centers, but the air pollutants that are going to be released have a variety of health outcomes such as asthma, lung cancer, heart attacks, and premature death. Even the smallest exposure to these pollutants in the air leave people at risk of these diseases. And you're leaving Santa Teresa, the community down there, most vulnerable to this. And instead you're accepting 1.5 million for a club in Las Cruces. That has no impact on Santa Teresa. So if you guys are gonna continue working with these people, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Sorry, if you've continued to have outbursts like this, sir, we'll be asking you to leave. Thank you.
I gotta go to work because.
Please, go ahead.
Buenos días, miembros del comité y comisionados. Mi nombre es Ricardo Carvajal. Yo vivo en la calle Stern 5800 y de ese punto hacia abajo, el camino que está por un lado del freeway está en muy malas condiciones. Con la lluvia se ha deteriorado mucho y en las orillas es muy peligroso cuando los carros pasan porque los puede jalar hacia un lado y tener un accidente. Igualmente, las personas que se les llega a descomponer su carro o los indigentes que van caminando por ahí, hay muchas partes donde tienen que caminar por arriba del camino y los carros pasan recio ahí, pasan a 50 millas. Entonces no hay espacio tampoco para que las gentes puedan transitar ahí, que pase algún accidente por esa causa. Ese es lo que yo necesitaba decir. Muchas gracias.
Gracias por venir. Y por favor, ¿puedes poner su nombre ahí en el libro? Gracias.
Commissioners, I have a note here. I'm going to read it to you.
I'm sorry, ma'am. You've already had your chance to speak.
Yes, that's why I want to read the note.
But you've already had your chance to speak, ma'am, and I'm sorry if you can share that with us. Like I said, we can't speak for somebody else. There has to be another person.
She's given me permission to talk.
But ma'am, I'm sorry. If you are speaking, you've had your chance. You cannot speak for somebody else. No, ma'am. I understand, ma'am, but you can only speak for yourself. If you would like, you can share that with the commission via email, or you can share that on text or our cell phone. So that's what I would recommend. But please, and I would tell you as well. I know there's a lot of people that can't make it. If they can't, please have them reach out to each of the commissioners, or via email, or even give us a call. We'd be glad to understand. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. My name's Jim Hurst. I'll sign the book when I'm done. I didn't realize this was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. It's very unfortunate that they chose this weekend for that. There's nothing more terrifying than officers of the law, so-called, who are not subject to law. There's nothing more frightening than bad guys with badges. Good guys, bad guys with badges. Because they make it impossible for ordinary citizens to know who the good guys and who the bad guys are. And unfortunately, the public, and generally speaking, is better off trusting the law enforcement community than other voices. But when you know that our government is lying to us, it erodes confidence in everything the government does. We have government because it does things we can't do ourselves. And when we can't trust our government, we can't do anything that we can't do by ourselves. So confidence in government is everything, and what we're seeing with our own eyes and what we're hearing from our government does not match, and that makes us lose our confidence in government. So, unfortunately, it's your guys' burden to fix our perceptions of government. How local government functions should be a lot different than how the federal government functions, because we should be able to feel that you are responsive to us and our needs, and that you will do the right thing and you will tell us the truth. So everything I planned to say, I didn't, and I just want to say that I hurt as a citizen. I'm in pain, and I am in a great deal of fear that this republic may not long endure. I think things are more serious now than they've ever been. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Buenos días, me
Buenos
llamo
días.
Marta Silva.
¿Se puedes acercar al micrófono, por favor? Okay.
Yo me llamo Marta Silva. Vengo porque las calles del Cerro Vado están inundadas y necesito ayuda para que vayan a componernos allí. Las luces también, no tenemos luz, está oscuro. Y también les pido que haya más seguridad para los niños de la escuela en los bases, que haya seguridad, porque ahorita están pasando muchas cosas muy, muy tristes. Y necesito que también que los ayuden a la comunidad a arreglar las calles. Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias por venir hoy.
And Mr. Chair, if I may. Señora, su nombre de nuevo, por favor, que no lo capté. Marta Silva, gracias.
Okay. Are there any other members of the public that would like to provide public input? All right. Thank you all for this morning for your input. And we'll move on now to commission input. Commissioners, are there any comments from the commission? No?
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please,
I do
Commissioner
have a
Chaparro.
comment. Thank
Yes.
you. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a difficult year, and it's just beginning for not only our county, but for our country. And Mr. Hurst, I do agree with you. It's very saddening, and it's breaking a lot of our hearts of what is happening throughout. It's captured my attention and it's captured everyone's attention, I think. But my words to our community is that we need to speak to each other. Hay que hablar uno con nosotros. Those with opposing views, ellos con vistas opuestas, platicar, entendernos unos a los otros, to understand each other. And not to fear each other. Because we are one community, somos unos. Ustedes son yo y yo soy ustedes. Entonces vamos a inspirarnos. Let's find inspiration from one another because sometimes we perceive ourselves as so different. And I think we all want the same thing. We're just looking at it from different ways. And I'm a 80s music nerd. I was listening to Journey last night and thinking about what's going on in our county. Soy una persona que le gusta la música de los 80s. Hay una canción, no paren de creer. Don't stop believing. Vamos a estar bien juntos. We're going to be okay together. We're going to make a difference. So don't stop believing that. Don't stop believing in our democracy. And don't stop believing that when we come together, we may be a few, but our roar is loud. Quizás seamos unos pocos, pero nuestro llanto, nuestra voz es muy fuerte. Y todo va a estar bien, pero lo tenemos que hacer juntos. We'll be fine, but we have to do it together. So let's find compassion, let's find humanity, and let's work together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Chavarro, for those words. I also want to echo a similar sentiment that the events that we've seen in Minnesota are just have me hurting for our country, the community in Minnesota, and for all those that the lives have been lost so far. One of the things that most people, a majority of this country, never have to deal with, but the people here that live here in the borderlands understand, is the inland Border Patrol checkpoints. And the reason I bring that up is it's something that we live with every day. To go, if I want to happen to go up to Sparky's and get a burger, I've got to go through Border Patrol checkpoint. When I would go to work to Deming, I would have to go through a Border Patrol checkpoint. As a kid, this was what I saw. We've become so used to it. I don't want to say we've coexisted with Border Patrol, but we've just accepted that that's part of living where we do. We want to go to Cloudcroft. I remember going with my grandparents and you know, the refrain that they ask you every time, are you a US citizen? Yes. This idea, though, that as we've accepted that this was part of living here in the borderlands, one of the things that's never happened here is that we have to carry our documents to prove that we are citizens. We never had to have fear that, do I need to bring my paperwork, my birth certificate, my passport, any other documents to prove that you should be here, because we've had a trust in our law enforcement that's not what's going to happen. And I know here in Doña County, I know DASO and others do not use immigration or your status as a reason to detain you. They don't even ask it. But what we see is that the federal government is now telling us you have to carry your documents. It doesn't matter where you are in this nation, whether you could be in Minnesota, you could be in Kansas, or you could be here. And it's troubling because this is what erodes our trust in our law enforcement, in our government. And then we see the events that have unfolded in Minnesota, where you've seen ICE go into the communities there. And we know it's been clearly said by the president that this is political. He's going to left-leaning states, cities to enforce what he feels is what, these areas of huge crime. And what if we had for it? We've had Renee Good, who's been murdered. You've had Alex Preddy, who's been murdered. You look over here in the ICE detention center in El Paso, when ICE agents said a person killed themselves, but it wasn't. It's been ruled a homicide by the El Paso medical examiner. So my question is this, because this is something I've been speaking out since last year on. We have the Army patrolling our southern border. We've already had ICE coming in more and more in our communities here in El Paso and here in Las Cruces, as well as in Santa Teresa. So let me ask you, are we safer? Are we safer with more troops, with more federal agents on our streets? My thought is no. And that doesn't lead to safer streets. Like I said, having trust in our law enforcement agencies does. When, regardless of your immigration status, you want to report a crime so that it can be addressed, whether that's going to be human trafficking or abuse or any nature of crime, and you can report that without fear of being targeted, that's what we need. What I will say, though, is as I've brought up, like I said, I've talked about this several times before in the past, and I will continue to use my voice to speak up on this. But what was really encouraging that we see is that Border Patrol Commander Bovino is being sent back to El Centro in California. That doesn't happen just because. It happens because people are standing up. We're using our voices. And so we have to find ways to come together and use those voices to ensure our liberties survive this. We do have a lot more in common as U.S. citizens or just residents of this country. That's one of the things that made this so beautiful. That's what makes this community beautiful. But like I said, we as a community have to already live within much of what a lot of this country does not have to. And we have found a way to coexist. But to tell us that we have to endure more or be scrutinized more just because that's what they see, it's frustrating. And I hope that we will continue to come together as a community, push back where we need to, do not be afraid to use our voices, and we stand up together to make sure that we protect that what we love and those that we love. So thank you for letting me say a few words. All right, anybody, one last chance before we
Yeah,
go?
I'll just go really quick, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Thank you for Commissioner Chaparro and Chair Sanchez for what you said. I think that really kind of wraps the whole board into what's going on, and I think we all feel the emotions that you're feeling as well. I do want to touch on the opening of session, which we were just at in Santa Fe. I just want to make a huge shout out to our staff at the county that went up to go to NM counties and kind of start with those conversations. Shout out to Lucio for diving head deep into this government relations side of his position. We had great conversations, Commissioner Gomedos, with our delegation down here. They're very supportive of our project, what we're working on here. They're excited for the conversations. They're excited that we are up there sharing information, what we can do to help our communities out, what they can do to help us out. It was just great. So I do want to say a huge thank you to them. A huge thank you to our staff, Lucio, Scott, everyone that went up and had these meetings and, pounded the pavement until we got where we needed to go up there. It was great. So I just wanted to say thank you. And, we're in literally the first few days of session and a long way to go, but I think we're going to get some really great projects out of this. And I hope for a bright future for what we're doing up there. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Shelter Hernandez. All right. With that, we're move on to county elected officials input. I see Madam Assessor. Good morning. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Chair Shalja Hernandez, Vice Chair Gameros. Also, congratulations. Good morning, Commissioner Chaparro, sorry. Gina, Commissioner Shalja Hernandez, you have me all confused now. Gina Eugenia Montoartega, Assessor here at Doña County. Just wanted to give a little update on the Assessor's Office. We're currently working very hard to finish up last year so that we can get our notices of value sent out. Also, the public actually passed for the veteran exemption percentages, which will take effect this year. Also, legislation is clarifying that. They have an emergency session with the governor because the way that it was written originally, it's very confusing. So we're hoping to get the final determination and clarification on exactly how those percentages will work. Just wanted to let people know that the Assessor's Office is here to help. We are elected to serve. We are here every day, all day long. And if anybody has any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. A lot of times people don't like what we have to say, but we've had very good conversations with a lot of the people, our taxpayers, and clarify the issues that they may be having. And we have come to agree to disagree and do what is right as we do and are obligated by state statute. So thank you all very much. And once again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. All right. We'll move on to staff input. Scott, are there any staff input this morning?
Keeping it brief today, Jamie Michael has an item, and that will be all for today, sir.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Jamie Michael, County's Health and Human Services Department. I'm going to briefly take us back in time. I just want to recognize our staff for the winter celebrations that they hosted at 8 community resource centers this year. The first time we were in La Mesa, and it was an amazing turnout. It was a great way to look beyond kind of the handful of folks that normally come to the community center and really reach out to a larger number of people in La Mesa, and our staff were able to meet them, and I think they saw the dedication from our staff who put so much time and energy into planning, preparing, and decorating. So I also want to recognize our team right now and give them a moment to celebrate. So here's a little video that has some of or I guess it's a presentation, so it's not going to go on its own. The winter celebrations, you can see just everybody having fun. You can see the decorations. They use just regular office supplies and a couple, special purchases, but they're very creative in making sure that the environment and the atmosphere is very celebratory. Oregon is a very unique community. They do a light parade. So they have a lot of folks with their vehicles, decorate their vehicles. They look forward to this every year. Thank goodness the weather was nice for them to be outside. But you can see 90 people attended the celebration at the community center in Oregon. We had Rincon, again, another small community center. We're only open part-time there, but there were almost 70 people that came out to celebrate together. Butterfield, again, a nice event for multi-generation to come together, families, kids, grandparents. Vado, we had 65 attendees. This is actually about half of the attendees that we normally get in Vado. And so we're talking with the community just to find out what are some of the reasons why fewer people are coming out in that community. And there is some fear of law enforcement. There is some fear, some sensitivity. But the folks that came did have a great time, and we have to have a special call out for our Santa. So Commissioner Gameros, please thank your husband for stepping into the role of our jolly Santa. And he even went to the center in La Mesa. So next year we might sign him up for more of these events. Take it show on the road. Thank you. Doña Community Resource Center, they love having dances. They had a fall dance, they had a winter celebration dance, there's going to be a Valentine's dance. So if you want some fun exercise and just get out, listen to music and dance with community members and neighbors, Doña is a great place to attend. And that small center, 75 people came, danced, got face painting, lots of food, games, and activities. Here was La Mesa, 75 people there, which was fantastic. A couple folks even asked if they would leave the decorations up so they could continue to see them during the following weeks. So you see Eric Bransford there. He is here today, so we can thank him and ask him to thank his team for us for all of this, this great work. Down in Chaparral, Dolores Wright, that's always a very well-attended. They do a great job of very interactive games for all of the different age groups, and we blended in a lot of literacy activities, again, to continue to promote the library resource there. Radium Springs, they usually have a lot of dances, but they did focus on the young kids for this community event. And those were our celebrations. Next year, I would like to partner with county employees and the EAC committee and get back to county employees donating gifts so we can wrap presents and give gifts to the children. It was very successful in the past, and I think we have a very strong employee activity committee who can come in and help us do that. So thank you for allowing us the resources and the opportunity to do this great event, and thank you for our staff for the wonderful job they do.
Awesome. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you to your staff. I think it's exciting to see when you see the number of people in the community show up for the event and can participate. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And Mr. Chair, the last item is just a save-the-date reminder for guests, staff, and board. March 4th will be our next day of the county. So looking forward to having some fun, sharing some of our reflections and the things that are coming in the year ahead. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, then we'll on to commission-appointed board report backs. I just have one, which is for the Animal Service Center of the Mesilla Valley. We met last Thursday where we ended up approving the new contract for the new director of the ASCMV, Ms. Stephanie Lewis. So we're excited. I believe she'll be starting on February 17th. She's in the process of getting started with her relocation. So we're excited to welcome her here in Doña County. But that's the only specific board report back. I did also want to, during Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez's comments, I did also want to bring up that we also had a very good trip to Washington, D.C. with myself, Commissioner Sheldon Hernandez, Scott Andrews, Stephen Lopez, Lucio, as well as Amanda Gomez, and we got to meet and speak with our Senator Ben Ray Lujan, Representative Gabe Vasquez, while we weren't able to connect with Senator Martin Heinrich, who was on the floor at the time voting. But we did have a very good conversation with his staff regarding some of our priorities that we have here in the county, trying to find some potential funding. And so looking forward to doing that. I think one of the things that makes me so excited is it's the first time outside of that I've seen us go to DC specifically to advocate for our needs. And actually that we have a plan in terms of following up, as I know there's going to be another trip coming up in February where I know Vice Chair Gameros, I don't know if Commissioner Chaparro will join her, but you know, I think it's a sustained effort for us in Doña County to make sure that we are trying to leave no stone unturned when we're trying to find opportunities for funding for projects here in the county. So,
Mr. Chair,
yes, Commissioner.
If we can actually reach out to the Mesilla Valley Public Housing Authority, I know that it's been a while since we've had them come and present, but I know that we were hoping to strengthen that relationship. So I just wanted to put it on our radar and staff's radar that we might want to reach out to them and see if they're willing to come and tell us now that that executive director has been in the position for, I think, like 6 months, 7 months now, 6 months, something like that. It would probably help us out kind of with where we're going as a community and public housing. So I'd really appreciate that.
Okay, sir. All right. Okay, and we're on to, I guess the next item is agenda item number 9, which is under presentations. It's a report by commissioners on the annual inspection of the Doña County Detention Center for 2025. So I don't know if, how we'd like to start, if between Commissioner Chaparro and Vice Chair Gameros. I know you all did the audit and the evaluation for the detention center. So I'll turn it over to you all if you would like to give the highlights overview of how it went and any items of note.
Mr. Chair.
Please, Commissioner Chaparro.
Thank you. So I was in Santa Fe last week and left my sheet at home, but I've passed it out to the rest of the commissioners. So very briefly, I'll go over this. And so general cleanliness overview. When I was there, everything was amazingly clean. The guard pods, the catwalks, the break room. I didn't go into the common areas shared by the inmates. I did look through some of the windows. The medical area was very clean. Kitchen, I gave a 2. I understand there was an issue with the dishwasher and the trustees were cleaning the kitchen or washing dishes by hand, so there was a lot of water everywhere. And I think that's something that we need to take a look at. I also shared, I believe, an email, and County Manager Andrews, I believe, got a copy of that where they were requesting trays and what they needed to make sure that the people at the jail are not cutting their hands and not cooking on serving trays. The laundry area was clean. However, that needs to be expanded. It's so tight in there. I watched them for a good 10 minutes, and there are so many uniforms, just things that they're washing and drying, and it's a very tight space for them. So we need to look into expanding that. Regarding the general population inmate information, a 3 on everything with the exception of the inmates that appear to be well-disciplined and respectful to visitors. We have people there that have behavioral issues, and we must do better to make sure that they are obtaining their medication or getting their counseling that they needed. I was in Santa Fe as well, went to a workshop where Jamie was regarding working together with law enforcement, behavioral health experts, and just providing resources to the people that are in jail. The inmates appear to be healthy and clean, mostly. I think it's a choice of personal preference if they shower every day or not, or if they change their suits every day or not. They're afforded that ability to shower and change their clothing. Some choose not to, so it just depends on the day that you go. And by the way, I need to give the staff of the detention center a big shout out. It was mostly a surprise visit by me. I went in maybe giving them a couple of hours notice that I was going to be there. Regarding the staff, wow. We have an excellent staff. I've been to the jail several times, and not just as a commissioner, but I worked there as well with my clients and with attorneys. They take pride in what they do. Their grooming is great. They maintain order in a very positive and humane way. Their discipline is respectful. They're professional. They're familiar with the procedures. They report incidents timely. I spoke to a lot of the detention officers while I was there in each different department, whether it be the juvenile or the general population or the special facility with people that are having issues. And I asked them about their satisfaction with their job and satisfaction with the administration. They're satisfied. But ladies and gentlemen, that detention center is old. What really concerned me about the staff is when I went into the break room, it is so small. They have lockers that have been there for, I don't know, probably since the jail was built. We need an expansion, and there's room to the northwest side where we have some sort of trailer, I guess it is, a mobile home, that we could move and expand it that way for kitchen, for laundry. I did notice that there, in the back, there was also an area, if there's a fire and emergency, the counselors can't get out. And so we need to be able to provide an exit or maybe move people around to where the staff is safe. It scared me a little bit. If there was ever any problem, the staff can't leave. They can't get out. Now, regarding the food, I was a little late and I wasn't able to taste the food, but I was able to see the trays that were coming back, and I was really impressed. Vegetables, macaroni, meat. People seem to be enjoying the food, so thank you to the staff that's providing it. Ms. Gigi, you're doing a good job in the kitchen. I wasn't able to taste the food because lunch was over. And the food preparation appeared to be professional and sanitary. The commissary, I asked about different prices, and maybe we need to look at that, Mr. Andrews, because a bag of potato chips is $20. And that just really surprised me. I don't know who the vendor is, but $20 for a bag of potato chips, that just seems a little high to me. I don't know what the procedure is for awarding contracts for people providing commissary stock, but that was just a little high. The staff of the detention center cooperated fully with this inspection process. Other things I've noticed is there was 2 master control areas where we need to put down flooring, and they're utilizing the same desks that have been utilized probably for the last 20 years. It's not, I don't think, adequate for the staff that is watching the inmates. Cabinets are bad, blinds are bad. We need more biometric identifiers throughout, especially as they're booking. Also body scans as they're booking, because they're having to do it manually, and that's not safe for our staff. So if we can look into that. I was impressed with the juvenile area and how they're allowed to speak to the judges that are watching them. That's working very well, and the person that's running it did a great job of explaining everything to me. Again, expansion of medical, expansion of laundry room. We need to expand about 30,000 square feet, I think, in my view. I'm not an engineer and I'm not a contractor any longer, but we're getting more federal prisoners. I think this commission needs to think about how we deal with federal prisoners and if we're able to accept them. I know that I was told that we're the only one in the region that has adequate medical. I know that the staff has shared with me that they're having trouble with a lot of fentanyl coming in, and it's not from the prisoners in Las Cruces, it's from the prisoners coming in from other areas. Mental health is good. They're asking for a new x-ray machine. Again, speaking to the staff, bigger break room, a room that allows them better chairs. They're sitting on little school, I don't know if you all remember the cafeteria where you have those little round stools and you can sit for 5 minutes. That's in their break room. And they're getting 2 breaks and a lunch break, and they're sitting on these little stools, and I don't think that's been remodeled forever. I was also looking outside where there's a break area for staff that doesn't have trees, doesn't have sail shades. I think that needs to be expanded. But in short, I'd like to thank Captain Cordova, and I spoke to Director Baker in Santa Fe, and this is the most, or the time that I've seen the best professionalism at the detention center. They're happier, they're working together appropriately, they're working together as a team. They are dedicated to serving. We need to take more trainees in because they need the help. I mean, they're working overtime. And so for that to be addressed, I think would be a good idea. But I'd like to thank everyone that spoke to me during this walkthrough. Everything seemed to be working well. Oh, I take that back. One of the master control rooms is, I think, sitting on dirt. I walked in and it felt spongy. I think I spoke to you about it, Assistant County Manager Lopez. I walked in and it felt spongy to me. And I'm thinking, I don't think we have any concrete underneath that. And so if we can look into a couple of the master control areas and see what they need to address any emergencies that might arise. But thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. I know the staff and I are communicating here, and even the budget team, we're going to go out there for a visit before the budget cycle rolls around. So we appreciate the feedback.
Thank you, Commissioner Chaparro. Vice Chair Camenos, did you?
Yes, thank you. So I'm going to start off with the good stuff. With staff in general, I met Captain Cordova, and he's the one who took me around to look at the facility. And, I want to apologize to them and thank them for receiving me late. A meeting that I had before then ran over just a little too long. And so I ended up there a couple of hours later, and I ended up took his lunch hour. So I'm so sorry for that. I owe him a sandwich. And so with that, I went into the juvenile area and the females, and I met an Officer Johnson in that area. And what I liked about her is that she was very professional, really respectful, and very caring. They all allowed us to ask questions of the inmates. They stepped away. They weren't, there in front, making them feel intimidated in any way. They allowed them to speak freely. And what I liked about her is she actually takes it upon herself to keep the empty cells that are there clean. She actually cleans them. She cleans the sinks, the toilets. When she has a downtime, she says, I don't want to be bored, and so this is what I do. Yes. So, I was really impressed by that. So the juvenile area where she was at, those empty cells were very clean. Lieutenant Puente, I believe he's the one that runs the juvenile area. And, speaking to him as well, he listened, he answered all my questions. He's, the staff is just very friendly. They were very, very friendly. Let me see here. And so with that said, I did speak to staff, and staff was happy with each other, with, working together. I didn't have any negative feedback from staff, regarding administration, which was good. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into my comments here. So as Commissioner Chaparro was stating with the commissary, I asked them for the list because when I asked the inmates what is it that they would like to see or what's different or what they don't like, and many of them kept telling me the commissary prices. And especially the females, when they told me how much it was, I couldn't believe what they were telling me. So I asked for the list, and they gave me the list. And one of the things I was really surprised was So let me see here. For a box of tampons, they only sell one box of tampons. That's all they have available. And that was $48.32. Like, yeah, they do provide them sanitary napkins for free. But I asked one of the inmates if she could show me it. And when she showed me the size of them, when we opened them up, I was like, well, that's nice for somebody who has a nice little light flow. But those that have a heavy one, they're using more than that. They said that if they use up those 3, they can ask for more and they'll continue to give them more. But like I said, there's women that don't use those because it just doesn't accommodate them, their flow. So that was one thing I was surprised. Another thing was the floss. A 30-pack of floss is $11.59. I think that's pretty pricey as well. The playing cards, I was looking on Amazon, I was looking on Walmart, and, you can get playing cards for like $2 something, and they're like $6. The Uno cards are $10.89. Sweatshirts, sweatpants, if they want that, it runs between $28 to $39. They only have one pair of type of shoes, is a Velcro shoes, and they're all $79. Coffee for 3 to 4 ounce, $10.68 to $12.86. Boxes of cereal, $10 to $12. So I was kind of like surprised at those prices. For the majority of the rest of the stuff, it was, what you would normally see maybe at Walmart. But there's some prices there that they really need to look into. I don't know, maybe because I have a restrictive diet. I asked them about, what do they have for people that have restrictive diets in the commissary. And they do have gluten-free items there. Obviously they have, tuna, and they have some other type of meat products and stuff like that. But those two are pricey as well for people that have a gluten-free tolerance or dairy tolerance or any other tolerance that they can only do protein. Some of the inmates were telling me that even the vending machines that they have in there tend to be more expensive than the commissary. So unfortunately, I didn't get to see any of those vending machines up front in the commissary, so I didn't get to see those prices. The other thing, I think areas that need improvement in cleanliness within the juvenile system facility, it's mainly in the males' day rooms. Their cells. In day room A, the empty cells in there were dirty with like debris on the floor. There was, the sink was covered in this white scaling, and the toilet was dirty. The water literally looked brown or blackish to me. They were telling me that it's because of the water, that it's corroding the toilet in the inside, and that's what the discoloration is. So that kind of worries me because I was told that they have a watering softening system. Well, you shouldn't get that if your watering softening system is working. So maybe it's not working, maybe it needs to be looked into. They also, in those empty cells, I guess it's the area where the heating the air or the cooling, the vents, where that comes in through. So I guess some of the inmates, it's mainly in the juveniles that I saw, those empty ones. I guess they get too cold or too hot, and so they plug up those those little holes, the vents, with soap or pieces of paper. Unfortunately, whoever was there before, that was there, and nobody cleaned it. So I don't know why they're not cleaning these cells after they've been, after the person's been released and they're no longer in use. Like I said, there was no indication of any type of cleaning. I don't know why they're not cleaning that. In day room B, it was the same. It was messy, dirty in there. There was a torn mattress in there, still there. So I think we need to look into that as well, making sure that, they're getting proper mattresses and they're not ripped up, And like I said, they just need to be cleaned after the individuals leave. the adult medical area, the therapeutic cell 1, the walls and the floor, they need to be powered washed or scrubbed very well after each use. There's markings in there. Yeah, I guess when people are in there, they're marking it or with their fingernails because it's I don't know what type of material it is that it's that, I guess what they call like their padded room. And it's like like a rubber, right? So they kind of use their fingernails to do that. That area, obviously, I was surprised that there's no toilet in there. And obviously, well, the toilet is actually a hole in the middle of the cell. And that's where they go, number 1 and number 2. But yeah, I did not feel comfortable even walking in there just to look. But like I said, I don't feel like it's being, sanitized after each use. And I think they should because, look at what happened with COVID, right? And we have the flu going around. We have all these other things. And, just because they're in jail doesn't mean that it should not be sanitary for them. The other thing that I also noticed was the observation cell. In that area, the toilet was filthy, and the sink, the cell, it just stunk. It really smelled pretty bad in there. And so for me, if it smells in there, that means it's not cleaned, right? Room 221, it's a 4-person cell. It was empty, but it was used that morning. The 4 concrete beds that are in there, they were dirty. It needs a power wash. It needs to be painted as well. There was a pool of water that was on the floor next to the sink. I asked them, if they could look into that. They said, oh, maybe it was a shower because the shower is right next to that where the pool of water was, but the shower was dry when I looked at it. The other thing I did notice in there in the treatment area where they come in and, they have their treatment where they patch them up, wounds or whatever, they have a gurney, and you could see on the gurney, on the mattress of the gurney, that it wasn't sanitized as well. They were telling me, oh yeah, well, people use it. Well, according to sanitary guidelines, you should be sanitizing that gurney after every person's use. And I don't think that's what's happening there. I don't think it's being sanitized, or from what I just kind of saw, what was on there. I think that they need to start doing better in sanitizing, especially the medical area. Let's see here. When I asked the female inmates about their clothing, they were telling me that they tend to try to, that they're discouraged for placing clothes up to dry, creating little lines and stuff like that. And I would ask them, well, why, are you getting your clothes back damp? And they said, yes. So they're getting their clothes back damp, and that they say that it still doesn't smell clean or fresh, that it has like a mildew smell on their clothing. Let's see here, the food, when I asked them, the inmates, the majority were telling me this, the inmates liked the previous food vendor. They said that the food was much better, it was tastier. They felt that this one is a hit and miss, and that either the food is bland or it's too salty. One of them told me that she gets kind of disgusted because when she's eating her food, she can taste the soap residue that's left on the tray on her food. 2 male juveniles, they stated they received black and uncooked hard potatoes. And then when I asked, I actually made it there for, I guess, dinner, and so they had a tray, and I did taste the food. That day, because I do have dietary restrictions, the thing that I was able to taste was, it looked like a chicken soup or so, with rice, and it had carrots, and that actually was pretty tasty. Maybe because I hadn't eaten all day and that was like my first meal of the day. That was pretty tasty. They did have a bunch of carrots that were boiled, no flavor at all. It's just like they took it out of the pot with no seasoning, nothing. They just stuck it on there. I didn't get to taste the dessert. But like I said, yeah, it was like a hit and miss. Let me see here. What's the other one? The water, the inmates were saying that it's hard and has a bad taste to it. Like I said, there is something going on. If we do have a softener system, we need to check it out because there shouldn't be that much scaling on the skin, on the sinks and the toilets, with like that rusty, gunky water look. And so with the adult facility, it is old, it needs to be remodeled, it needs expansion. The guard pods in there, like they have these built-in type of desks that are high, so they're standing. A lot of them have gotten used to standing, but I think that they need some type of adjustable desks because they're in there constantly to where they can sit and stand. Their chairs, they need chairs badly. They're going through chairs quite a bit. I know Captain Cordova is looking for a way of trying to get some sturdy, reliable chairs because they're going through these chairs quite a bit. There was some chairs that were in there that didn't have like the backing anymore. The bottom was ripped, torn. Yeah, like I said, they need new stuff. There's, and I don't know why they're in there too, because I think they need to be trashed, these torns and these broken chairs. The blinds in the hallways, they are really messed up. They're on the windows, there's some that are just, well, a lot of them, they're torn, they're broken. So they really need to be replaced. Like I said, the power washing probably needs to be on the walls and the floors for the recreational area. They use soap in order to create pictures or words or markings, and they use it on the floor, on the recreational area outside. They have it on the walls. So I think that needs to be cleaned up as well. The laundry facility is very small, is really tight, yes. They need, and maybe that's why, the clothing's not being dried, or I don't know, maybe some of the dryers need to be checked out, maybe replaced if they're not drying correctly. The other things I saw there was, I just really do think that they need to expand. I know last year when I first came in, we did tour the facility, and at that time, we were told that they were looking into expanding that break area and, creating, a better area for them in there. And it's already a year and nothing's been done. So I don't know, something was put on hold and I don't know why, but I know that they would like to see that. I didn't get to go into the males area. I just looked through the window just to kind of see. So I did see some, I was mainly in the female pods, looking at that and talking to them in the juvenile areas. I did go see the area where they have the special population, I guess. And that was actually pretty clean there. So no complaints there. But I think that we need to start investing more into that area. I just kind of feel like, I understand our inmates are there because it is a jail, a prison. But our staff that works there shouldn't feel like they have to be in a prison. That's their job, that's their second home. I think they need to be accommodated and taken care of as well. So, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please.
Thank you. So the master control, I could read my notes after looking at them. It's the juvenile master control room that really needs looking at. And one thing I forgot to mention was the attorney-client little pods. they've been like that for the last, well, ever since I've been an interpreter, and they're so tiny that it just doesn't lend itself to proper communication or due process, in my opinion. So that needs to, I just think we just need to remodel that jail and just expand it tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you both for your feedback. I know Mrs. Weir and I are taking pages of notes here, so we appreciate it. We'll circle back with Director Baker shortly.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Gometos. Thank you, Commissioner Chaparro, for your time to do that, and thank you for such a thorough review of this. I think this is probably the most in-depth and most feedback we've received, so since I've been on, so I appreciate you all doing that. All right, are there any other questions or comments from the board? All right. We'll move on to our meeting minutes. Agenda item number 10, which is the regular meeting minutes for January 13, 2026. If we can get a motion in a second to begin discussion.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Vice Chair Gometos,
Second.
second by Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez. Are there any changes, questions on the meeting minutes? All right. If there are none, then I'll ask Brandy if you do a roll call on agenda item number 10, please.
Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Chaparro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gometos,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes. All right, that item is approved. We're on to agenda item number 11, which is approval of the Human Resources Policy Manual. If I can get a motion and a second to begin this discussion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Commissioner Sheljo Hernandez. I will second the motion. With that, I will turn it over to Ms. Meg Haynes.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioners. Meg Haynes, HR Director. The county had contracted with MGT Consulting Service to revise the Human Resources Policy and Procedures Manual. I have Mr. Rodney Crane here from MGT to do a presentation on the changes, and we're looking for commission approval through resolution. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Crane.
Okay. Good morning. Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Great to be back. I appreciate the time to speak with you on the changes to the HR policies and procedures, and this time with a request for approval on the changes in a new document. The agenda is pretty much the same as before. And I will go through it very briefly. It's okay, I'll just use this, thanks. But we'll go over the, as we talked about before, the project team, our approach, a little bit on the key findings and the changes. And then we've also added an employee handbook that we want to speak about, as well as our next steps. In addition to myself, we have two other people working on this engagement. Mary Jacobson and Everhart. And I specifically wanted to reference Ann. She was the lead for this effort and did much of the work related to the changes, which are many, and did a great job. And I want to just give her credit for all the work that she did on the documents that you've had and are reviewing. So our approach, as was previously mentioned, does look at both the policy and reviewing the information from a number of perspectives. There's the internal view of feedback we got from the folks here in Doña, as well as externally with the comparison to other organizations, and then looking at the market and what was the trends that were existing and might be used as ways to update the document and give it a fresh look. Along with that, we had talked about some of the things that we found from that work, which did include information that showed that
the tone of the document wasn't necessarily representing how the county was wanting the environment to be reflected. It might have felt a little bit stronger, firmer, possibly more structured and not as engaging. And so we looked at both the tone as well as the actual content. Areas associated with the topics were sometimes confusing. In addition, the fact that the document did include policy and procedures, sometimes intermingled, not always clear which one was which. The difference obviously being that the procedures might be changing. The policy is the direction that the organization expects to be used for guidance. And we also talked a little bit about the fact that there was a need for more brevity in and consistency in how the words were displayed and presented. This time, however, we also have collected information from staff. It was not a large response rate, but we did find that it was consistent with the information that we'd collected previous to this, things associated with both the accessibility and the usability of the document, as well as the clarity and consistency of the language. But it also mentioned comments regarding making sure that the document was aligned with policies that exist within the departments, as well as making sure that there was clear communication when there were changes. So those last two items being more related to once the new policy is approved, making sure that those things are taken into consideration. With all of that, this summarizes the changes that, in a kind of an encapsulated way, the result of those changes. The actual document is actually a little bit more than 66 pages because we did make a few changes after we created this presentation, but certainly a dramatic difference in the number of pages that were needed. That was not necessarily a goal per se, but certainly an obvious outcome of making sure that we had clarified and streamlined and combined areas that were similar or the same. The other thing that we did was, when you look at this, you'll see that there are a couple of organizations who currently use handbooks. That is their official document that they use for ensuring there's guidance around how their procedures and policies are managed. That isn't always the case. A lot of organizations have both. And so we did make it the recommendation, and you did see in your documents a handbook, which I'll talk about in just a minute. So rather than going through all of the changes, let me just, this document, these next few pages do show kind of in a nutshell what was impacted within each section, very much similar in each one. It talks about changes in the wording. It talks about adding links, things along those lines. But it does show that there was a need to do that throughout the book, not in certain or specific sections, but really across the entire document. So I want to talk a little bit specifically about the employee handbook. As I mentioned, it is not uncommon, and in fact, it's really preferred to have a document that employees can use to gain a quicker understanding of what are the expectations of them as an employee in an organization. We have this cover design that we've created for it, and the content of it really looks at making sure that the employee is engaged from the beginning of their employment and that they have a reference point. Just the term handbook is more engaging, but the reality of it is that employees will tend to pick up a handbook, see it as a companion document, something that they can easily access. It feels familiar, but we did create it in a way that it's completely aligned, obviously, with the policies. You can see from this listing here, it includes all the same information, just packaged differently. And as you might have had a chance to look at that document, much more graphic, a lot more pictures, friendly kind of presentation in order to make sure that the employee is encouraged to read it and is pulled into it. And obviously, it has to be consistent with what's in the policy, but it presents it in a way that's much more user-friendly. It also includes, at the end, an employee acknowledgement. And while it's not uncommon for a policies document to expect employees to sign and say they've read it. The reality is that most employees are not going to read the policy document cover to cover, but in fact, they might read the handbook. And so having them acknowledge that, which means that they are aware of the key areas that are important for their personal impact within the organization, things that they're most interested in, is really key. And then in terms of the things that we're looking at next, obviously, we're looking for approval from this board on the document itself. And then once that occurs, we'll be able to work with the county to ensure that there's a finality in the actual document itself. And then we'll look at what's needed to implement it. We will create an implementation strategy that gives suggestions around how that might be done most effectively, as well as materials that can be used for training or communication to the organization. And then our organization is also available to assist with that if it's needed. And with that, I'll ask if there's any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Are there any questions, board? Commissioner Chaparro?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation. I do have a question that surprised me a little, I suppose. When you mentioned that the handbook is probably read by most employees, but policy and procedures are not read. Is there any way that a potential employee or a new employee can be given time upon hiring to just go through everything and then acknowledge that it was read instead of saying, here, take it home and read it and then come back and sign the acknowledgement? I mean, are there other options for that?
Sure. And as I mentioned, organizations do have employees sign off on the policies as well. It's just that, information has shown that most employees do not read it, primarily because most of the sections in there are not relevant to them. There might be at some point in time where some are, but the majority of it is not. We actually did a survey in another organization where we asked people specifically which sections they referenced, and not surprisingly, only about half of them referenced that they referred to all sections. So while they would, sign that document because it's required, it's unlikely they would actually, they might, but, I guess you could certainly ask that as well, but the handbook is intended to be more engaging. People are more likely to read it. But absolutely, either one could be used.
Thank you.
Chair, Vice Chair, Commissioner Chaparro, also to enhance on what Rodney just stated, we will have it as part of the onboarding, the online onboarding, as well as part of the orientation process. So it will be readily available for all employees, and employees will be trained on the policies as well as the employee handbook. But as Rodney stated, a lot of times with policy and procedure, it doesn't become important until there's a need for it. So, but it will be readily available.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. And I just, because I hear this, well, HR didn't tell me, but you provide the policy and procedure in the handbook to them or to our employees, and maybe it's not being read thoroughly, and then fingers are pointed at HR for lack of knowledge. And so maybe, I don't know what to do about that. I don't have the answer to that, but I'm hearing it.
Yes.
And employees being more familiar with policy, procedure, and handbook certainly, I think, would reduce complaints about HR or how things are handled. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Chaparro. Commissioners, any other questions?
I'm sorry, I forgot to mention one thing, and that's the document does include a lot of links. I might have mentioned that, but many of those are still in process. As you know, the organization is still implementing Workday, which is heavily procedurally dependent, and those will impact the things that are in the book. And so the content of the document is set at this point, pending any changes that might be recommended, but the links are still being defined.
Thank you, Mr. Crane. Couple questions, because I think you on one of the previous slides, you talk about integrity and conflict of interest. I will note there is no mention of integrity at all in this document. So trying to understand, are we going to create something that talks about integrity in this, or just because, like I said, I would just maybe it's just the communication piece, but I know in the presentation we noted integrity was here, but it is not in here at all.
Chair, Vice Chair, what we can do is add a piece into a link into the policy and/or the employee handbook, ensuring that integrity is communicated and understood on what that means to the organization and to each individual employee. Because that is an important part of Doña County is integrity.
And I agree. That's what I'm saying. I guess that was my concern is, you know, I know it's mentioned, but I just don't see it here. I think the other part is, and this is just from speaking from an elected representative. I know it says here that we have to follow all the rules of the county, but nothing specifically is in here about the code of conduct for elected officials or the requirements of that. And so when I see this as an elected official, that we are also responsible for following these rules, I would very much want some of that to be very clear, or a direct reference to that code of conduct, so that, like I said, there's a clear understanding of the requirements that we have to be being compliant with as an elected official. So I guess that was one of the things that I noticed under the employment rights and responsibilities under conflict of interest. While I know there's a link, it says there'll be a link there to the certificate or the code of conduct. I don't see, like I said, I didn't see really any call out to that or any real reference to that. So I would like, I guess for me, I would like to have that addressed. The other item is, while we talk about, like, I guess the integrity and trying, I think like Commissioner Chaparro is kind of highlighting, is how do we get people to read some of these things? I don't know, I see here as one of the next steps, develop training materials. My hope was, or maybe because I'm so used to it in my work, that every year we have to go through integrity training and compliance training, so that, and it's online, so it's not, sometimes we do it with our people leaders, where the managers give the training, so that way we understand, number one, what is expected of us as employees, some examples of these things, and then we go in and record our completion to the training. But you know, if we're able to do that in such a way that we can ensure that, you know, at least, I can't guarantee that everybody will read this, but if you have a way in which to confirm that at least they have that high level of, this is what's expected of me as an employee here, you know, then maybe that might drive some people to maybe follow and read and at least skim over some of this stuff. But just at least a suggestion or a hope, what we do here.
Chair, Vice Chair, I'm glad you brought that up. We have some exciting changes in the HR department with our Talent and Culture Division, and with the Benefits and Compliance Division working with Talent and Culture. You will be able to see some changes in the way the training is done, some innovative ways, some, you know, really modern ways of making sure that the training is out there, that the employees receive what they need in order to understand policy as well as procedure. So I am excited to say that you will be seeing some of those. There'll be online training, there will be in-person training, and so through Workday, I think we'll be able to meet those needs that you just spoke about.
Okay, good, and thank you for that. And, just leave it at one thing. And I think this is always that stuck in my head is early on in my career, this was all part of, like I said, creating like a culture of integrity. One of the things that was brought up or they suggested is, every time you make a decision is having the New York Times test. What would you do if the decision you made was put on the front page of the New York Times? And, would you be, would you be able to accept that? Or what would it mean to your family? What would it mean to your coworkers, et cetera? And I know we live it here especially here. I mean, we just had a representative from the Albuquerque Journal. So not the New York Times, but still, people look to us as the county government as to ensure that we're doing what we need to be doing, that we're following all the laws that we need to. So, yeah, I think it's particularly one of those things that I find super important because, I think we need to hold ourselves to that standard, and I hope all employees do, and hold. I'll say for me, hold me accountable as well as an elected official, that we're doing that. So, but I appreciate the feedback, and I'm excited to see what happens or how we develop that piece of it.
Chair, Vice Chair, thank you. I agree, and with this change in the way we are handling policy and procedure with the employee handbook, as well as the training that we are able to provide, I think you'll see some positive changes, and I think we all need reminders every year how important policies and procedures are, and, integrity, and that's something that we've always tried to enhance and to make sure is available for the employees. So you will continue to see that in hopefully a more modernized way.
Awesome, thank you. All right, any other comments, questions?
No, I just want to thank Rodney MGT, as well as the staff, Meg, Ashley, all those that aren't here for all their hard work on this. I know it's been a labor of love. I know a lot has gone into this, and board, as I shared with you during my evaluation a few weeks ago, this is just the start. So next we'll move on to a finance rewrite this year, and peek down and make sure Carrie was aware. No, but joking aside, we're going to look at legal, and then community development has their next round. So it's just something for those that are watching at home, that best practice is updating every 5 to 10 years at most, but you want to have this be a living document, to your point earlier, sir.
Thank you, Scott. If there are no other questions or comments, I don't think we have any public input. So with that, Brandy, if you'll do a roll call on agenda item number 11.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Chaparro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gameros,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
That does have a resolution number. The number is 2026-18.
Excellent, thank you, Brandy. All right, we're on to follow-up commission input. Any other input from fellow commissioners? Not seeing any, so we'll move on to correspondence. Brandy.
We have Spartan Construction of New Mexico LLC versus Doña County, and Elliott Chase versus Doña County.
Thank you, Brandy. All right. So with that, I'd like to ask for a motion to convene in closed session regarding a limited personnel matter related to the county manager's evaluation and contract as allowed by section 10-15-1H2 of the Open Meetings Act and NMSA 1978.
So moved.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez.
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Gameros. All right. Brandy, if you'll roll call us on the motion to go into closed session, please.
Commissioner Shaljo Hernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Chaparro,
Yes.
Vice Chair Gameros,
Yes.
Chair Sanchez.
Yes. All right, thank you. And with that, we will enter into closed session at 10:50. We will return here shortly. we're gonna. Okay. Thank you. Sorry about that. With that, it's 11:15. We're returning into open session. Let the record reflect that the only thing discussed in the closed session were the items noted in the motion. And with that, we're not going to be taking any other action at this time. And so with that, we'll call this meeting adjourned here at 11:15 a.m. and we will see you all in February. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good day.